Welcome to the New Look TC Daily. In fact, we have a brand new name for this show going into 2023, and that is the TechCentral Show, TCS. I hope you like our new set. Despite the name change, you can still find us at the same place on YouTube. I think you know the address by now. It's youtube.com/TechCentral. Hit that subscribe button and you'll never miss one of the great interviews we've got lined up this year. And one of those great interviews is coming up next. Johan Kruger is Head of Community Independence at AfriForum, and he's going to delve into some very interesting news that came out in the last 2 weeks or so. I think it was published in the Report and the City Press, and that's that AfriForum plans to build its own electricity generation system of some kind, and I'm very keen to unpack this with AfriForum. So Johan, thank you for making the time. Thanks for coming through to Joburg, and thank you for doing this interview.
Thank you very much, Duncan. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. I think most of our viewers and listeners are aware of AfriForum. Perhaps they don't know exactly what it is you guys do. You're a civil organization, civil rights organization. Maybe just a little bit of background on who AfriForum is. I think it's very often associated with the Afrikaans community. Is that a fair perception?
I think so. I think AfriForum came into being about 15 years ago. It's a civil rights organization, basically looking at sustaining or ensuring that our members and the Afrikaans cultural community and the Afrikaans speaking people in general have a free and a successful future ahead of them, prosperous. So obviously we're not exclusive. We have members from all over, in every spectrum, and we
black, white,
across the board. Although that is the case, we labour in various fields. So, for example, interculturally, we have number of projects. So on the community side, we have about 160 branches countrywide, active branches, working on keeping the community sustainable in various aspects, also on the safety side. So we're very active in that side. And then on the activism side, obviously, taking on various issues that we feel must be taken on behalf of our members and given our aims. So very, very fortunate to have about 310,000 members at this stage, and we also form part of a bigger solidarity movement, about 500,000 members in total. So we're very blessed, and also very humbled to be able to say that we also have to try and do our bit as far as energy sustainability is concerned, and trying to alleviate this crisis that we're in.
Right, and it certainly is a crisis, and we're going to get into some detail about what it is exactly that AfriForum is trying to do. But tell me a bit about your role, Johan. How long have you been with AfriForum? You're Head of Community Independence. What does your day-to-day job entail?
Yes, so basically all matters community fall under me. So from the safety side to our structures, to also some specialist portfolios, working in local government, environmental affairs, even in risk and so forth, fall under me. So I manage those. But yeah, so one of our big aims is to try and ensure autonomous communities. So ensure that communities flourish, and decentralization and federalism is of course part of our aim. So we're working in that field quite extensively with a number of projects. So yes, we're blessed to be able to say that we're trying to do our best, at ground level to make the life better of our communities, and obviously, as far as we can. And with the project that we do, it's not only the Afrikaner community or the Afrikaans speaking community, but the whole of the community. So yeah, we're active in various municipal matters. So we engage with about 120 municipalities in various ways.
So you're right at the coalface of everything that's going on the ground in this country, right?
Yes, we are, and yes, the challenges are, as many of the viewers obviously know, is quite big.
And mounting, it seems.
And mounting.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's talk a bit about this, about the story that appeared in the City Press and Rapport newspapers 2 weeks ago or so. AfriForum is looking to get into the energy generation business. It wasn't entirely clear to me to the extent that you want to do that, whether you want to build your own Eskom,
Yes.
or if you're just looking to help facilitate the private generation of power within towns and cities across South Africa. Maybe just take us through the genesis of this project, what the scale of it is, and what AfriForum's actual involvement on the ground is going to be.
I think you summed it up quite well. So basically, at the beginning of last year, we started with the energy working group consisting of specialists in various energy fields, and also from the academic side and so forth. And we obviously felt the brunt along with everyone else of this crisis, and we said, well, what is it that we can do? And that led up to an energy indaba that we held last year during November. Working with the AAI, and it's an organisation representing around 20 Afrikaner organisations, and also working with the Thabo Mbeki Foundation looking at solutions in various fields, and also that was also supported by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, a German think tank. So basically, we started unpacking what are the options apart from Eskom, and so that went actually quite well. But in the end, I think we all know that Eskom is not sustainable in the sense that it won't be able to provide the energy that's necessary. And what can we do? So basically, it's a facilitation at the early stages, but in the long term, we're also looking at possibly getting involved with this energy company with the nuclear pebble-bed nuclear technology that is going on. So the first 2 stages, is, if I might call it that, is basically immediately now what can we do to alleviate this this crisis. So we're using our footprint, to try and facilitate, basically at the very basic level, bringing knowledge to our members and the biggest community on what it is that you need to implement now in terms of solar technology, and what are you looking at, who are the people that you can depend on, but trying to just facilitate knowledge, and then also bringing installers, bigger providers and so forth into the mix to see can we ensure good value, pricing, etc., and then also how can we intervene with the financial models to make this as as affordable as possible, especially at the very lower end. So facilitation role in the first one. And then in the medium term.
So are you going to, as AfriForum, are you going to publish best practice documents, a supplier list,
that's right,
that sort of thing?
So yes, exactly. So what we did, Duncan, now is just we published we gave out a guide on basic principles of solar energy for the guy like myself, not knowing where to start, what it is that you're looking at, what are the basic terms. What do you really need? Do you really need that big system, or do you, just starting to get
basic
some basic advice, and then also bringing the accredited and qualified installers, on our platform to the consumer out there. So we're working with the Association for Renewable Energy Practitioners there. We are engaging with Subvia. So we must ensure, as far as we can, that the quality and accreditation is there.
SAPIA being the South African Photovoltaic Association.
That's right. Okay. Trying to get their members, member list basically, and those guys that have the green card to do the installments and so on, to bring that to our members, so that you, as far as you can, have that have that credibility and good service. So I think that's basically what you can do immediately. But in the medium term, there's quite a lot of stakeholders that we're engaging with to see what is available that is feasible now, that we can provide to communities, to get communities in small towns more independent. So in terms of solar, in terms of gas, in terms of wind, even in the renewable space, what is available and what has been successful. And so we're trying to get a blueprint that we can offer communities, but also use our muscle, from an activist point of view, to engage with municipalities to say, look, here's a solution. Start opening up the doors, start decentralizing.
What is the reaction from some of these smaller municipalities? I mean, I think we're all aware of what's going on in the big cities. We're here in Johannesburg, you're in Pretoria, we know what's happening down in Cape Town and some of the efforts that the municipality there is putting in. We know the infrastructure, City Power's infrastructure here in Johannesburg, for example, is crumbling. When there's load shedding, very often the power doesn't come back on. But I think AfriForum probably has some good insight into what's happening in the smaller towns around South Africa as well. Do you travel around the country? Do you see what's happening at the coalface? And is the situation worse than what we're seeing here in Gauteng in some of the smaller towns?
Yeah, absolutely, Duncan. Sure. I think I spoke to some of the guys in Bethal and Mpumalanga now that they've been, some of the communities have been without water for 60 days. So it's
without water for 60 days.
60. So and that's mainly due to power. So the lack of power, not being able to pump. So it's really a perfect storm there. So in many of the smaller municipalities, the rural areas, you're finding misery there. When you drive there, you find misery. And it's like I say, from the sewage infrastructure, water, and now power as well. So I think the crisis is there. It's a question of bringing those municipalities, and frankly speaking, the ANC municipalities to the brink to say, look, the alternative is absolute total collapse, which is very close.
Happened in some areas already.
It's already happened. It is so. So how do you come back from that, and how do you, if you can still stop it, how do you do it? So start engaging with and there's so many stakeholders and private role players that are willing to do this. They even have the capital available. It's only the political will. So there's a very nice success story in Mafube municipality, Frankfurt.
Where is that?
Mafube is in the Free State. It's in the Frankfurt Verlies area there. And so that's really a glimmer of hope, if you can say that.
Well, tell us about what's happening in the Mafube municipality. Yes. What is AfriForum's involvement there?
So AfriForum is working with a company called Rural Maintenance, and they've been in the energy field for many years now. So we're working together in other fields as well. There's litigation, so there's a whole mix of things there. We're trying to get sewage going, water, refuse, but the very nice story that Rural has achieved there is that there was a municipal manager with foresight there and signed a 25-year agreement with Rural to provide, to basically generate, distribute, do the collection. So they've basically taken over on behalf of the municipality the whole value chain of energy. So they're generating it with solar. It's their own network, and they're getting the money in. They're paying the municipality and Eskom, and so.
And this is an ANC municipality.
And this is an ANC municipality, and that's the only one really. But the success of that story is so big. So they've now applied to be exempted from load shedding, and they're on the brink. So I think that'll be the first one.
Wow!
So it's possible. The blueprint is there. The capital investment is there. It's really that political step of saying, all right, Rural, come in, or whichever private sector role player come in and just help us.
Why do you think Mafube has been pragmatic about this, whereas other municipalities have not?
I honestly can't say, and I really say it's that municipal manager that saw what was coming. So it was that small gap that was taken there.
Interesting. And your engagements with other municipalities, I mean, most municipalities obviously around the country are ANC controlled. Yeah. I'm imagining there's quite a bit of antipathy in the ANC towards AfriForum. What are you seeing on the ground typically? Not like the Mafube instance, but what you're seeing in towns like Bethel, for example.
Yes. Well, typically there's a closed door that we run into. But as a starting point, we participate in, as far as we can, in the IDP process every year. We come forward with solutions.
IDP being
the integrated development plan of a municipality, really to say what will be the business plan, the budget, etc. Which so we bring those solutions to the table. We in two municipalities we have agreements with the municipality to say we on our cost, at our cost, we will provide you with specialist advice on water, on sanitation. We've gone in there and we've given the rundown of what must be done and what it will be costing, etc. So they're eager to take that, but not eager to implement. So in many respects, I think there is a conversation going, but the step of to say, come and help us. Bringing the private sector players that will be able to do this. That remains a challenge. We did have a success in crippling River in Koster couple of years ago, where the community there got a court order on an urgent basis to manage the water and sewage plants there. Because
where is Koster?
Koster is in northwest.
Northwest, okay.
Yeah, and to say, well, that municipality is so dilapidated and obviously can do it, that they got that court order, and AfriForum came in with our teams and specialists, and we assisted with running those plants and getting them back to functionality, and to the extent that the water was going very well, on our way even to green drop status, on the but obviously then the political side came in again, and it's not good for ANC municipality to be bailed out by the community and to say, look, here's a success. So the court in the end ordered that it all be given back to the municipality now, and unfortunately and quite predictably it's gone back to where it was, and even worse. So I think the options are there, the solutions are there, if we can force the municipalities to get going with the political side. It is possible.
Let's talk a little bit further down the line then. Your CEO, Kali Kriel, has been quoted as saying that AfriForum is in discussions with a South African-born businessman by the name of Andre Pinar. I think I don't know the name, actually. He founded a company called C5 Capital, and you're in talks with him about possibly developing a pebble-bed modular nuclear reactor, which sounds absolutely fascinating. Who is Andre Pinar exactly? And tell us a bit about this nuclear plan.
Andre Pinar is he had also a quite nice piece in the report last week. He's obviously a South African, Afrikaner. He's been living abroad for 30 years, but remains quite close to the country, and so he travels between London and Washington, and he has this venture capital firm. So he also spoke at the Energy Indaba and did his paper on the possibility of the pebble-bed nuclear modular technology, which is already ongoing in Washington, for example, and his firm is invested in X Energy there. So,
we've been in the news in the last week or two. I've seen reports actually in the US. I think I saw something in the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken, about the deployment of pebble-bed modular nuclear reactors in the US. X Energy is at the forefront of this, isn't it?
Absolutely so. So Andre is quite positive that it can be done also in South Africa. So that technology that's being developed, so in broad terms, the plan is to also introduce it in South Africa. And we're in formal talks with him. And as you said, it's going. I saw the nuclear regulator in the USA approved a similar technology in San Francisco.
I think that's the story I read actually.
Probably. So it's actually going. We're talking actually tomorrow with guys in Canada doing the same sort of thing. And there's also a Chinese plant that's already going on similar sort of technology. And I think, like you said, when we spoke earlier, it is something that South Africa could have been at the forefront of.
Yes, in fact, we were pioneers in the early development of pebble-bed modular nuclear reactors. I think Eskom was doing some of the work there. What exactly is a pebble-bed modular nuclear reactor? Is it just a tiny nuclear power station? How does it work exactly?
Yeah, it's well, as far as a lawyer can tell you.
Sure.
I understand it to be very, very small. So basically, to be able to fit on a flatbed truck, in a container sort of. Yes, very, very small, and also inherently safe.
That was my next question.
Yeah, that is. I think that's all of our questions. You don't want to be on the TV for the wrong.
AfriForum just nuked some town somewhere.
So they're already destroyed, but okay. They're said to be inherently safe and easy transportable, and also can provide for decades. So the specific technology, I won't be able to elaborate too much upon.
Fair enough. But it's been a technology that's been in development for a very long time, and it now appears that it's starting to be rolled out commercially. But if you were to do it here in South Africa, I presume there are a lot of obstacles in your way. I imagine Gwede Mantashe is one of those obstacles. The energy regulator, NERSA, must also approve this, I would assume, and there will be a lot of political debate about allowing private capital to invest in nuclear power generation in South Africa. Have you had any of these conversations with government or anyone in the regulators at this stage?
Well, we're starting to engage, and we're seeking those engagement opportunities. But I think the government will have no other choice than to start doing it. I think the concessions that we saw last year with regards to capacity, generation capacity up to 100 megawatts, etc.
And now lifted, it's uncapped.
That's right. So that's not because they wanted to do it. It's because they had to do it. And I think this will be a similar exercise, that the groundswell will become such that they will have no choice but to also look at this as part of the energy mix. But of course, from AfriForum's side and the broader society, when we know this is safe and feasible, we must use our muscle from ground to also kick open those doors, whether it be by litigation or by. So yes, the obstacles are there, but I think the ANC is to a large extent, as far as this is concerned, with their backs against the wall. Yes. And and like you said, we have the know-how. We have the know-how here now. Since our announcement a couple of weeks ago, people have just been flooding in to say, look, we're still working on this. We're working there, and they're South African guys. South Africans are very resilient. And ex-energy guys are South Africans. Yes. They used to work on the project here, and unfortunately, like you said, it was stopped.
Do you know why?
Not entirely sure why, but
it was a long time ago, 2010, I think.
2010, and they were well on our way. And under President Zuma, it was stopped. And
he prefers his nukes from Russia.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he probably had an agreement there. So, but very unfortunate, of course, and all those people, went abroad and were actually headhunted to these sort of the ex-energies of the world, and how sad is that not? But okay, it is possible still.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to watch this roll out. I mean, you're speaking about the PBMR. have you got a specific site in mind at this stage as AfriForum where you'd like to deploy one of these?
Not at this stage. Obviously, we, the Western Cape, and because of their willingness to look at this is a
likely place to do
a likely place. But if we if we can engage with other municipalities who have no other option, I think obviously we'll do that. But yeah, as the years progress, we will hopefully have other options available.
Yeah. What about wind and solar? Is that something that AfriForum's looking at as well as part of this project?
Yes, absolutely. I think that will remain part of the mix. And
I mean, at a utility scale rather than individual households.
Individual, yes, we are. So for example, the rurals of the country, we will try to create the platform to bring their know-how and track records, capital, and the opportunities together. So a lot of also foreign investors in the last week, contacting us and saying, just give us the projects that are feasible, and let's start working together. So yes, definitely. Even in coal, there's still some talks ongoing. In gas, natural gas, we're talking with guys that are in Mozambique now with plants available. So so we must try to bring those role players together and almost make it impossible for government to ignore and put pressure on deregulating this whole landscape.
Yeah, I'm always interested here at TechCentral. We're obviously very interested in telecommunications and broadband, etc. Yes. And something I've covered very closely over the years is the deregulation and liberalisation of the telecommunications industry in South Africa. Until 15 years ago or so, Telkom had an absolute monopoly over fixed lines. And then there was a court judgment, I think it was Altec, that brought a court judgment against the then Minister of Communications, and the sector was liberalised basically overnight. The net effect of that was private sector moved in, rolled out fibre to the home on a large scale, especially in the cities, not so much in the smaller towns. It's starting to happen there as well. But that was the liberalisation of an industry. And I'm wondering if we're going to see a similar effect in the electricity industry with some of the measures that are being introduced now. Now, we obviously talk about the private power generation, the deployment of utility scale solar, wind. You've spoken about PBMRs and the possibility of those contributing to the grid. But we've also got a problem in terms of the last mile distribution of electricity infrastructure into homes and businesses, in that infrastructure is also, we see it here in Johannesburg, that infrastructure is collapsing. City Power, for example, is unable to maintain the infrastructure. They say they need 30 billion rand to fix the systems just on the electricity side of things. Do you think that it's feasible in electricity to do what's happened in telecommunications and actually start to have the private sector start to deploy and look after that last mile electricity infrastructure as well?
Duncan, I don't think we have a choice. I think it is possible. I think the appetite is there. And once again, it's a question of breaking that monopoly and liberalising the sector. So I think it will, of course, be quite a muscle that goes into that. But I don't see us having a choice, and I don't see government having a choice. So I think it is possible. Obviously, a very complex problem with the infrastructure and the rate of theft and corruption and all of that. So. But I think it is possible, but a very firm commitment from government that they have the well-being of the country at heart and not that of the party is absolutely important.
Sure. There's the politics, but it's also an ideological thing as well. But also, governments around the world, municipal infrastructure tends to be provided almost exclusively by government in some capacity, usually a local government of some kind, and this is true across the developing and developed worlds. So if we were to fully privatize our last mile electricity infrastructure in South Africa, do you think, would we be doing something that's unique globally, or are there other examples elsewhere in the world of fully privatized electricity infrastructure?
I think it will probably always be a mix, especially in our context, but I think to I think to a certain extent we have to decentralize. centralized management is, in a monolithic sort of, governing structure is in the African context, even worldwide. I think it's
not just Africa where you're seeing this sort of deregulation.
And so it must happen, and hopefully we can have at least these pockets of decentralized working a working system, and I think that's where we're probably going. And I don't think that government can really stop it if communities simply say that we're going to do it.
So the liberalisation and privatisation of the electricity sector is almost happening, not because of government policy, but because of government failure.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, all of this work that you're doing in the energy space is grouped under something called Project AfriForums.
That's right.
So you've spoken about the components of this. There's the PBMR, which is a more medium to longer term thing. There's the short term thing of helping households get off the grid, households and businesses get off the grid, providing them with advice. But another leg of Project AfriForums is a court case that you've brought against the energy regulator NERSA. Just tell us what that's about exactly.
Yeah, so basically two-pronged. The one is, on the recent tariff increases, we're simply looking for what the reasons are and seeing whether that can be reviewed, because that in itself makes it so difficult, for the consumer. But then we must, our legal team is looking at the holes for ensuring that deregulation, is hastened. So where can we, be through, through a structured interdict or the correct legal avenue, ensure that NERSA and government and Eskom take the necessary steps to make it as easy as possible, to start putting energy back in the grid. Obviously, we have to protect the integrity of the grid, so it's not a free-for-all total wipeout, but we think that there must be firm commitments and a structured approach from NERSA and Eskom and government to say, this is what we're doing to make it easier to become part of the solution. So we've heard those sounds from government, but how long is it not taking? So what we're basically looking at is to see how can we hasten that through litigation.
Okay, and there's obviously a lot of work that needs to be done from a policy and regulatory perspective as the market liberalizes. In fact, as the market liberalizes, you probably need more regulation because the market becomes more complex and you've got more players trying to deal with each other, and you don't want that free-for-all, which could actually end up damaging the system. Right. There must be plenty of examples internationally of how this has been done, but is AfriForum doing any work around policy development, about regulatory development around things like feed-in tariffs, for example, people who've gone off or have gone partially off grid? There's a lot of work that still needs to be done in kind of figuring these things out. And I imagine that municipalities in South Africa particularly need a lot of assistance in developing some of those regulations. Should this be happening at a municipal by municipal level, or should there be overarching regulations that state this is what municipalities need to do or have to do?
I think both. I think there needs to be clear leadership by NERSA. And obviously at a municipal level also. I think so what we're doing on our side is to try and also come up with a sort of a blueprint to help municipalities, with what needs to be done, what can be done, and how to start doing it. So City of Cape Town, I think, is a prime example of that, and we heard last week that they're now starting to open up the grid for households, and also buying at a rate that will also almost start making it feasible from an investment point of view, even if an homeowner wants to put up more than he or she needs. So those sort of things need to be thrashed out, and we will try from our side through that working group of ours to make a contribution there.
Johan, before I let you go, I just want you to perhaps have a look forward, 10 years, 2033. What is the power situation going to look like in South Africa 10 years from now? and what would you like it to look like? I guess those are two separate questions.
Yes.
What do you think it's going to look like in 10 years? What could it look like in 10 years?
Well, I think Eskom will always be part of the mix. So we're not trying to build another Eskom, but Eskom is not the answer. We must privatize, deregularize. So if we want to have any chance at all, so the solutions are available.
Yeah.
So I think that we'll probably go through through a bad patch, but I think if we start implementing on the medium term and on the long term, it can look better. And I think someone like Andre Pinar has that vision to say not only South Africa but Africa. So yes, so I think that the two roads, if government and NERSA and Eskom do the right things now, in the medium term we can start recovering and bring in the right players and capital, and we can go to a high ground. But if not, I think it will only get worse, and you'll have these communities, pockets of excellence, with those that can afford as far as they can, but you'll have a landscape of misery in terms of energy,
which is not sustainable. If you have people who have the means to go off the grid and produce wealth, etc., they're surrounded by a sea of people who just do not have the means to participate in the economy, and the economy is broken because they don't have electricity.
Absolutely, and it's a recipe for a lot of other things except darkness. So.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we get things right in the next 10 years. Johan Kruger is Head of Community Independence at AfriForum. Best of luck with your initiatives, and I hope to invite you on the show again, maybe a bit later this year, for an update on how things are progressing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Duncan.